Okay, do you know that you're being recorded for this interview?
Yes, I do.
Are you okay with that?
I am fine with that.
All right, awesome. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, well, just basically tell me about your organization and what you do.
Our organization is known as Produce from the Heart. We're a nonprofit organization. It's in Lincoln. We operate out of southeast Nebraska and southwestern Iowa. We've been in operation for 4 years as a recognized nonprofit. We've been around 5 years as an organization. What we do is we work with farmers markets, community gardens, personal gardens, and what we term food hubs, organizations that buy produce and then redistribute it to other buyers. And what we do is we offer the service that if they're going to have excess produce for any reason, for farmers, if they grow too much or have some that they can't sell, same thing for gardens and whatnot. If they have too much, then we offer two things. One, if it's already harvested, we'll offer to come pick it up. If it's not harvested, we'll offer to bring in volunteers to do the harvesting. Then we take all of that excess produce and we take it to pantries, food shelters, food banks, shelters, homeless shelters, for those groups that are helping with hunger relief organizations. And we try to do it as close to the farmer as possible so they know that they're helping their local community.
Okay, that's really cool. Would you describe just like the overall UNL campus as wasteful when it comes to food?
Yes.
Based on what you've seen?
Yes. UNL's no different than any large campus that I've seen across the country, or any small campus really for that matter. And the issue is that the model exists and has existed for so long that food waste that occurs either within the dormitory settings and the dining halls, or even in locations such as smaller departmental meetings, college events, and even to the extent of the businesses that operate out of the student union. For so long it's been the practice that you just throw away your excess. Now we are seeing a movement more towards organizations redirecting some of that waste, but unfortunately UNL's a little bit behind the curve on this. The Student Sustainability Group is really pushing campus to become more efficient, more aware of that waste, but there's still progress to be made.
Right. Okay, so I spoke with the manager of the Able Dining Hall, so the dorm on campus, and she said that they've cut down food waste to 20%.
Wow.
What would your recommendations be to even lower this further? They are connected with the Food Net organization, which comes and takes the food and basically kind of what you guys do to pantries and things like that. But I kind of talked to her about one of their biggest problems is having kids take a whole bunch of food first and not eating it. And you can't really do much with it after that. Would you recommend any sort of...
I'm not familiar with how they're operating now. I know that a couple of schools, particularly Nebraska Wesleyan here in Lincoln, have moved to a system where students no longer can have a tray to carry plates on. They have to carry plates individually, and they have smaller plates, so the students are limited in that first round through as to how much they can take based just upon how much can they carry. Yes, some students will do multiple return visits, getting multiple plates, but the majority of students over at Wesleyan now operate on that. I can only carry 2 plates, they're smaller plates, and they have really reduced their waste that way.
Okay. What is your advice to UNL students and stuff that they can do to help reduce food waste?
First off, recognize, do you waste when you're having breakfast, lunch, or supper if you're living in the dorms? Just analyze yourself. And this is something that we recommend to people outside of this. I used to contract with the local food bank on working with their clients on food consumption, nutrition, food waste. And it does make you more aware if you track for a few days what do I eat, how much do I eat, and how much do I waste. Follow that for a week and become aware of what you're actually wasting. Recognize what it is that you might be keeping in your dorm room that eventually you end up throwing away because it's been there too long. And recognize, do you waste when you go eat fast food? And this is one that a lot of people will do, throwing away that half of a hamburger, part of their fries. And a way around that situation is to, if a menu allows it, getting a half order. If it doesn't have that option, then taking what you do end up not eating at the dorm, at the restaurant, take it back to your dorm, and that way maybe you can skip going down to the dining hall at supper. It's usually just an awareness issue, and most people don't realize when you add it up how much it truly adds up to.
Right. So you kind of spoke on awareness a little bit, and you kind of said that Lincoln's kind of behind on their awareness. What would you recommend overall on campus to make food waste a larger issue?
It needs to be taught in the classrooms. We need to have classes where it fits in. It needs to be no different than fitting in social issues in other classes, where we bring equality into our syllabus. We bring climate issues into our syllabus. We need to start bringing waste overall into those syllabus that it fits into the courses it fits into, to raise awareness that way. Student groups such as the sustainability group do a really great job of raising awareness through campaigns on campus. We could begin to offer, and again, I know that it was looked at a couple of years ago. I don't know if they're offering it yet. I have to admit I'm behind on what's going on in the dining halls. But there's a swipe for a meal program that a lot of campuses have now, which is, instead of eating your meal that day or adding on to your meal that day, you can provide you swipe double, and money from your account goes towards hunger programs.
Wow.
Within that, then what you're doing is it is right there when the student checks in at the dining hall. There is such a thing as waste. There is such a thing as hunger in your community, and here's something you can do right now. And that has really raised awareness at a lot of campuses across the country.
Okay. I remember that when you came in the classroom, you kind of gave some fun facts, not fun facts, but facts that regarded food waste and compared to the stadium size.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me some of those?
Yeah. When there was a real push on food waste in social media and in media in general a couple of years ago, one of the methods of trying to get people to perceive how much waste we're talking about was to take how much food is wasted, which is 40% of all the food that is grown in the country or manufactured. 40% of that ends up being wasted. Well, percents people don't deal with well.
Right.
And poundage people don't deal with well. So what they came up with was this idea of, well, people know how big a football stadium is. And they said, well, if we take that volume of food and put it into stadiums, how many are we talking? Nationally, we're talking 733 stadiums.
Oh my goodness.
Basically the size of Memorial Stadium. For Nebraska, what we're talking about is 27 stadiums full of food, and that's how much Nebraskans waste. If you want to look at just what my focus is, and that's fresh produce, now you're down to 7 stadiums full of produce, and that's just what Nebraskans waste. And so you refer that back to that original 733 stadiums worth of food, and that translates to being enough food to feed all of the people who are hunger at risk, not only in our country, but in almost the entire world.
Wow. So would you say that the issue is growing or not?
Oh, yes. Yeah. The issue, though we're addressing it now,
Yeah.
is still a growing issue because the awareness in many cases isn't translating into action.
Right.
People are more aware, but it's so early on that they're not changing habits quite yet. And we haven't seen that poundage that individuals are responsible for, which is about 200 pounds per person per year. We're not seeing a reduction, a significant reduction in that poundage quite yet. So the battle's begun, but we really haven't had that many on the ground victories.
Right. All right. Well, that's all the questions I have for you.